Hello everyone, this is Rabab Alma, a licensed marriage and family therapist and international life coach. I will be interviewing today my friend and colleague Genevieve, and she will join us shortly. She will be talking about self-love and personal accountability. I'm excited to have her with me on the call. She is a longtime friend. I will invite her now. Us very shortly.
Hi, how are you? Good, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining me and for taking the time.
Thank you for inviting me. This is incredible.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have you and hear all your news and all about what you have to say.
Yeah.
Before we start, I want to just mention a disclaimer that these lives are meant for general info. They are not meant for medical or therapeutic help, just for general info to the public. Okay, Jen. How are you? Tell me, I know that you are, of course, I introduced you. Genevieve, she is Pinpow, she is MA LMFT, and she is an approved supervisor. So can you elaborate on what you do and how did you end up an LMFT?
Sure, yeah. So I got into psychology in college when I was just a freshman, and I had a family systems class. And for whatever reason, it just spoke to me. I was like, this is it. And then I got to LaSalle. I went through grad school, and then I started working with families, and it was just such an experience and a privilege to be inducted into their system temporarily and getting some insight into how they function as a family, because we all function differently, right?
Sure.
And I don't know, I just caught the therapy bug, and it's been with me ever since. So, as a licensed marriage and family therapist, I co-own a private practice in Huntington Valley, where I see families, couples, kids, individuals experiencing some mental health issues. And then I also am a clinical supervisor of a in-home family therapy program in Bucks County.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Exciting. Yeah, I remember when we worked together back, like, I don't know how many years. Like, we started, I think, 2009. So, yeah, so we know each other now for 10 years. Wow, amazing.
And we haven't aged a bit.
We're not talking about age. We're talking about...
We're just seasoned.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
We're talking about experience and, this wonderful time that we, on the experience that people, we get when we work with people and couples and families, and how much we have to learn. So what population do you usually work with? Do you have a specific population?
So I think the population varies depending upon the day. Primarily with families and couples. Even when parents bring their children to therapy, I always look at the child within the context of the family.
Absolutely.
So we're always thinking about how the family can be supportive, because they're the primary unit for the child. And whatever symptomology the child's presenting, 90% of the time is probably either a generational pattern of behavior and or related to something going on in the household. And I mean, for kids, like, who's their primary support but their family? And
absolutely,
they're the ones that are being the most affected. So
yes.
I think just transparency and like encouraging families to look at the context of the symptomology.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, I am interviewing Genevieve Pinpow, and she is an LMFT, licensed marriage and family therapist and approved supervisor. Please, if you would like to ask her any questions, write in the comments and I will address them. Anila is joining, so thank you for everyone who's joining us. Fayaz, a lot of people are joining, so we're excited to have everyone on the line.
Very happy.
So, yeah, absolutely. So your topic today, or the topic today, is self-love and personal accountability.
Yes.
So what's behind that topic? Why did you choose that in particular? And
sure.
Yes, let's start with that.
Sure. So, when you invited me to speak, I was thinking about what's something that's going on for me that I'm good at. And I think for most people, we've all been on this journey of self acceptance and learning to understand ourselves better. And it's a lifelong process. It's not just something that we do in adolescence and like we got it under control for the rest of our lives. So I think it's always been a theme for me about like self love and self acceptance. And I chose it because it's something that I'm doing for myself right now. Um, and it's something that's near and dear to my heart because I feel like it's been something that everybody experiences in different ways, whether we think we're not good enough or we're not pretty enough or we're not smart enough. Just the theme about being enough and like what that really constitutes in terms of our lives and our specific life spaces.
Absolutely. So how do you see people undermine their own self-love in general?
I think people undermine their own self love when they start giving their power away to other people or other things. Um, I feel like we live in a culture where we're constantly plagued with different kinds of feelings and videos and YouTube and Instagram where people have their lives on display, even Facebook. And I think we absorb a lot or we infer a lot from what people are displaying publicly. And I think this creates a narrative for us where we feel less than. Um, because nobody's posting what's really going on for them 90% of the time.
Absolutely.
So I think it's hard when people feel isolated and alone, and then you have these your only source of outlet is like the internet and so forth, and that lends itself to having some feelings of not being enough. So I think like once we start questioning ourselves and we start considering that our lives are less meaningful by what we're seeing in social media, then we're giving our power away, or we're giving away our power if we're getting bullied if we're teenagers, or we're giving them their negative comments any kind of credence.
How about outside of social media? I think we do it to ourselves, even if we are not, because some people are not that big on social media, or
Right.
they check it maybe once, but they still feel that uh, uh, they experience that lack of self-love, if you will.
Yes, I mean, I agree. I think I was just using social media as a platform because that's what we're on
Yeah,
right now. But
yeah,
I think in our own lives, we allow people we give away our power when we think that we're we're less than other people. Um, when you have friends that are in different like life spaces, or people are moving faster than you, or getting promotions quicker than you, or you know, um, the grass is always green on the other side, kind of like logic. I think you give your power away when you consider that
when we
as
when we compare ourselves to others,
exactly.
regardless the context of, because their life, their experience different than ours. So if
Right.
we're comparing, that means we're comparing actually oranges to apples without us
Yeah.
knowing, and we just crush ourselves without knowing.
Right. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
when you talk about personal accountability, what do you mean by that, and how do you see that manifested in someone's life?
I think for me at least, personal accountability is that you have to be accountable to yourself and no one else first in order to be available emotionally and physically to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's going to make you happy, if it's going to bring joy to your life, if it's going to make you feel fulfilled, if it's going to create a happier space for you, then that's the priority. That's what um, personal accountability is. And conversely, even just holding yourself to a certain standard, like your value system, if your value system is congruent with your belief system, you're automatically 20 steps ahead. You want to live more of an authentic life, and that's what I think personal accountability is.
It's like more like having integrity, like everything is
Yes.
aligned.
Yes.
You don't have something like contradicting the other in your life, and then you keep questioning this or that, and you are unable to align with what you really preaching or presenting or to people. So, but this question of when we talk to clients sometimes or to people in general about self-love, how do I
Yeah.
do it? We have we receive this question a lot. Like people ask,
Yeah.
how do I do it, and how can this be manifested in my life, and what are the signs that I love? What do you mean by loving myself? So,
Yes.
what would you how would you direct them, if you will?
So I think for me, in my experience with learning to be self-loving, you have to learn self-compassion. And you have to learn to forgive yourself that you're human and you're going to make egregious errors in your life, some more significant than others, but that doesn't make you an awful person. Um, you have to forgive yourself that you may not look a certain way, you may not act a certain way, you may not have achieved a certain income level or educational level, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to. It just means that you're not there yet. And if you do not practice self-compassion, you're just constantly in this like cyclical, this vicious cycle of like beating yourself up over stuff that you can't even control. And then how can you love somebody, namely yourself, when you're constantly treating yourself worse than you do other people? So I think the basis of like starting a self-love experience is forgiveness and acceptance. Forgiveness for whatever has happened in the past. Forgiveness for whatever you may be doing now. And like an acceptance that today is just today. It's not forever. It's not for always. It's just for today. And if you're making an active plan, whether it be weight loss, whether it be getting a degree, changing your career, parenting, whatever it might be, being a better spouse, you always have an opportunity to change. And I think that like we can get into like this tunnel vision mode where we just see everything very much coded in like blanket statements, like always and never thinking. It's very toxic thinking, and it doesn't really allow ourselves to make room to experience the joy of like loving who you are.
Absolutely. I think, um, but sometimes we get these beliefs from our childhood, from people around us, from people that, and we know that as, as family therapists, that we hold certain values based on what we heard,
Mm-hmm.
whether from our parents or from the teachers or people around us. And we carry these beliefs all along with us until we are
Mm-hmm.
adults. And then we measure against those values or those standards.
Yeah.
And so, how can someone free themselves from that?
Therapy. Short answer. I think so. If our caretakers, right, our parents, dealt with us in a hurtful manner, as adults, I believe we will find all kinds of ways to perpetuate the unresolved pain onto ourselves, which then continues the cycle of, um, destructive uh, entitlement, so to speak, which is more of a therapy term, but you know what I mean, with contextual therapy.
The audience are not therapists, so
Yeah.
or some of them maybe, but some of them are not.
I don't know how to start off. It's constantly like in my brain.
Yeah, it's all clinical jargons that we have.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So like when we beat ourselves up, we're typically just following someone else who treated us that way. And then I think going back to your previous question about how to resolve this, I don't want to give my power away to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And if we continue to treat ourselves in the manner which we were treated, whether it's not just our parents, but if it was like kids in school, or teachers or coaches or aunts, uncles, cousins, whatever your social circle looked like growing up, and if they were mean to you or degraded you, you continue that cycle, it's going to block any ability to be in love with yourself or happy, because we're living somebody else's narrative.
Exactly.
And that feels
Awful.
yeah, it feels inauthentic because we're not we're not buying it. Like there's a portion in our brain, I think, where like it feels incongruent or fake because it's not our narrative. It's somebody else's experience or opinion of us that we've, been ingrained with, or we've adopted, so to speak. But the beauty part is that it doesn't always have to be our lives.
I think it's a matter of separating what's ours versus what's other people's.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if they are parents or teachers, we are not doubting, of course, anyone's intentions. But
No.
everyone will love us or will love you the way they think love is. You know what I mean?
Correct.
And maybe that way or that approach does not fit your, your personality or what you or need or whatever you want in this life. Absolutely. And then you will be like in this confusion between this and that. But see, sometimes either with therapy or coaching, whatever, people will take some steps forward and they sometimes default back. And so what would you say to people who, when they get into this cycle of defaulting, taking 2 steps forward and then coming back 10 back, and then they found themselves they are not really improving and they give up sometimes?
I think like if let me think. I think you have to understand, as a human being, you're going to take 2 steps back and then 3 steps forward, or vice versa, your whole life. Because we're not perfect. And there's always an opportunity to get back on the horse, so to speak. You can try again. It's like when people are trying to quit smoking. I mean, it's very hard because you're addicted to it, or food, or whatever it might be. Or negative relationships, but at some point it's going to click. I firmly believe that something in your life is going to align, and the ability to stick with this is going to feel greater than the feelings of loss of what you're losing. And you have to surround yourself with people that are cheerleaders for that movement in your life. And that movement, whatever it might be, has to become the priority. Has to become the priority because you're going to eventually be passing that on to somebody else.
You want to surround yourself with positive people who they are your fan. Fatima Aman has a question here. Can you say something about the rape culture that we are experiencing today and what that has to do with bullying and abuse and power?
I think for a long time the culture has always been women have not had the opportunity to be as empowered as we are today. And it was just socially ignored for many generations. And I feel like now that this is becoming a theme with like the Me Too movement and everybody discussing it, that it's becoming less socially acceptable and more of like a symptom of a larger problem. And I think it's helping people become more encouraged to speak their truth, to identify with their story, to be who they are, live their trauma in the open instead of being closeted with it and causing like shame and doubt and an onslaught of symptomology. But I think that it's becoming much more of a conversation amongst people than it has been in the past.
Yeah, it has been. People are more like coming forth with forthcoming with what they are experiencing, sharing with people about their experiences. And but there's still, if we talk about mental health, there's still a lot of stigma around it.
Yep.
Like the word therapy.
Yep.
It's like sometimes, okay, it scares people, it's like people don't want to talk about it. And we hear a lot of, like in the community, about a lot of suicides, especially, young kids. So it's imagine, that's really heartbreaking. Imagine the struggle, the pain, the suffering that someone was going through, and they just decided to end it. And sometimes no one noticed it. No one noticed it.
No.
It's and it's happening a lot in the community at large, and also in minorities also.
Yes.
And I think that goes back also to the self-love and the self-value and self-worth, because if someone lost all of this, then they will maybe they will choose to end it, and that's a very sad decision to make. But some people are doing it. Some famous people are doing it. Renowned people.
Yes, and I think that like the fact that it's mental health isn't taboo as it used to be. People are talking about their truths, about depression, about eating disorders, suicidal thoughts, anxiety. It's part of our our cultural narrative now,
Mm-hmm.
versus where it used to just be very shameful and you wouldn't talk about it, or Aunt so and so's just a little sad, or it was just much more of a shameful experience to be to identify as having a mental illness or a diagnosis or taking any kind of like psychotropic medication or not being what was socially acceptable. I think now that like um, mental illnesses and mental health are more common in conversation and people are more being more transparent, I think that there's much more people being saved than not saved.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think we need to maybe reach more to minorities, because sometimes it's hard to reach to some communities, and maybe the mental health is still a taboo in certain communities, and we need to reach out more. Um, so, do you have any, or do you think of success story on how self love evolved, whether personal or, of course, we professional, we uh, keep the clients' identities, but I mean, if there are stories
Yeah.
that you can share with us, whether a success story or sometimes a challenging story when people can really self sabotage.
Sure. Let me think. Well, I can use myself for both.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you for actually being for
sure. Yeah,
sharing.
sure.
It's an honor, actually. Thank you.
Of course, of course. So I've always been plus size ever since I can remember. I'm pretty sure I was like, even as an infant, they were probably like, oof, like I was tipping the scales. And I think for the longest time, growing up in like the 80s, there was no frame of reference for kids being overweight. It was just like, oh well, they're sad or they have low self esteem, and I never felt like I had low self esteem. I didn't even know what it was, quite frankly. All I know is that these people would always tell me that, and I was like, but I was like the kid who went and played sports. I I was like a social. I don't think I was like it wasn't registering. And then I got to high school and I was just like, oh boy, I see what they were talking about, because you're more of like a wallflower. But I don't think my personality ever matched it. I think for me, it was just drilled in my head that how I looked was never socially acceptable, because I didn't meet any kind of like norms. And so I think for me, I just kept that going. Like it was always in my narrative. Even when I went through like college and I graduated, even when I got through grad school and I graduated, even when I got my license, which is only like, I don't know, 6 years ago, I think that was always in the back of my mind. Like as I was talking earlier in our live video here about like not being enough, you're not enough, you're not enough, because I had myself conditioned that these norms, which really are not, frankly, constructed by anybody important, I absorbed them as like I put them as my self worth.
Yeah.
So, long story short, I turned 35 last year. And so I was just like, enough's enough. Um, I was married, I was happy. I mean, I am married, I am happy. And but like nothing felt authentic. Um, it just felt like a ruse for like the longest time. And I was just like, why is this not connecting? Why am I not genuinely feeling the success that I'm achieving? So then I went to therapy. Yes, therapists go to therapy.
So yes, yes, me
Yes,
too,
we
me
do.
too.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And it's been a good year talking to my therapist about it. And it all boiled down to like these um, conditional love themes that I had in my mind about like, oh, well, I'll be loved more when I'll be successful when.
Right.
For me, it was all around like weight loss. When I'm like a size 10, which I would look emaciated, like it wouldn't be healthy for me. And then I like took a pause, but all the time, like my coping skills were either you beat yourself up till you're literally crying and then you feel better because you expel that energy, or you eat yourself into oblivion because you don't know what other coping skills to satiate this lack of feeling or this lack of self-worth. So then my husband and I tried to go and have a baby and we couldn't. And it was my weight that was like impacting that. So I was like, there were two options at that time. I can either make the decision to lose weight and go on this entire unplanned self-love journey, or we can just stay as we are. And I think I just took into account all the years that I've neglected myself and these irrational conditional love themes that I perpetuated in my mind. And we just went through it. And I say we because like I have a really great spouse and he was my cheerleader, and I have like a really good family who is just like, we're here for you, and I have really good friends and I'm very grateful for them. But it hasn't been pretty. I mean, I think I've cried more in the past year than I have in my entire life. I think I've been more angry. Because once you start this process, then you get like hooked, and it's like you're not losing enough quick enough. So it's not always just like you make the decision to love yourself and like things are like rainbows and gumdrops.
Oh yeah, it's not magic.
Yeah,
it's
magic. Just a constant thing, almost like a mantra you have to wake up and tell yourself in the morning.
It's hard work.
Yeah, it's hard work, and you're really trying to retrain your brain.
Yes,
because you're
rewire your brain.
Yes. Yes, because the norm is to like default to like old thinking and negative thought patterns, like, oh well, you know, I only lost a pound this week. Well, that's it.
Yeah,
might as well
we don't celebrate the small wins. You know, we don't celebrate the small. We keep like, we don't celebrate the journey.
No, and you know, to bring it full circle, like when you asked me to do this, self-love was the only thing I think about because it's the thing that I'm living every day. And it's something that, you know, has been absent for the majority of my life. And it's just something that like I want to be an example for people that you can love yourself. Yes. You don't have to be you don't have to match whatever social constructs you have in your head. You can be weird, you could be cool, you could be thin, you could be fat, you could be blonde, red. This year is blonde, next year I could be red. I don't really know. But religion, race, it has nothing to do with it. You could just be happy. Yes. And being happy where you're at. And knowing that you're actively working towards making yourself better and coaching yourself around that is the hardest part.
Yes, it's and be consistent with it.
Yeah, because you can't, I mean, you fall off. We all have bad days, God knows.
Yeah.
We have birthdays, we have like celebratory drinks, we have this, you know, vision, like some days you feel, you know, bigger than others, you feel less than others, but you have to like you have to have this narrative in the back of your head that says, hold on, this is what you're so good at. You're still, you know, a good person, you're a good wife, you're a good dog mom. In my case, you're a good friend, you're a good therapist. You know, people like you, people support you, people love you unconditionally. You have to find that. And I didn't find that in therapy, I'll be honest. I found that after therapy, after I spent a year processing and processing and processing. Yeah. And
yes. Sometimes we have to just wait.
Yes, I think that's the problem, is the waiting.
It's the waiting. I think we need to keep our eyes and focus on the prize.
Yes.
No matter how much distraction we see, how many obstacles we face, how many sometimes steps back that we go through, and then we always have to or need to focus, because the goal is to enjoy the journey to reach that goal. And the goals also change, like I think
Yeah.
in every phase in our life. Yeah. And how about a challenging story?
Well, I think that like it's both, to be
It's
honest.
it's yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
indulged
think
in both. Yeah, yeah.
the biggest challenge for me is to, well, in my personal life, is adjusting to like the new me, and how it it affects other people. Because once you start changing,
Yeah, that's a domino.
yeah, people around you start
Yes, a
changing.
domino effect. Yeah.
Yeah, and some make the cut and some don't. That's the unfortunate part. I've been fortunate that everybody's made the cut with my life, but there's always been, when I'm talking about this with clients, it's always been a struggle where people are like, well, I'm afraid of losing so and so. I'm afraid if I'm not this way, this person won't like me, or I'm afraid of losing this person in my life. And then you have to evaluate, like, if they love you, right? Because then it goes back to love. If they love you as much as you love you, then they won't care.
Yeah. It's about it changing the story, and some
Yeah.
people are not ready to change the story.
Yeah.
Because sometimes even if the client or the person themselves, they are ready to change the story, but people around it are not the same level. So how can we need to navigate that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we need to surround ourselves, like you said, with supportive systems, so we are able to tap into that when we need them.
Absolutely. And you can't do anything alone. Like, change does not occur in a vacuum.
Yes,
So you definitely need a support system. So if you don't have a support system, you need to go out and get one.
absolutely.
Whether
Yes.
it's a support group, whether it's like going to the gym, whether it's like joining a running class, whatever it is, you need a support system, because we are not built as humans to do anything alone.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And when it comes to children, let's say talk about teenagers in particular, with all
Mm-hmm.
the the changes, developmental changes that happening in their life, and then
Yeah.
to exercise or to practice self-love, that can be challenging for them because they are still minors, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how do you think you can navigate that with them, the self-love and the accountability?
I think with some of the teenagers that I see, what I talk about is, if not now, when, right? And I'm very motivated to explore how they've developed these themes, right? And because most teenagers still live with their parents,
Yes.
I think it's important to give the psychoeducation to the parents, because I I think that most kids are just living how they're being taught.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So I
sometimes
don't.
it's hard to explain that to the parents, because when they come and they are talking about the child who's being the problem,
Yeah.
and, and being defiant on all of the stuff, we need to really recognize that these children are reacting to whatever happening in their life, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
whether maybe from the parents or someone else, but it's a reaction to what's happening in their life. So, what are your future professional plans, Jen?
Ah. So to be transparent, as much as like as I'm in transition, so is my future. So I mean, I love doing therapy. It's my it's more of a passion than anything else. I'm going to continue to do therapy, and maybe hopefully explore what parenthood is going to be like at some point
Oh
in the
yeah,
near
that's a
future.
whole.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, as you know, my daughter now in college, so
Yes.
it's like seems it feels remote, to me. But
Mm-hmm.
it's sometimes you think, wow, where did the time go? I mean, you saw Lanice when she was, little girl.
Little bitty. She's a little bitty baby.
Yes, it's amazing how things on how they grow up and very fast. And so so you see clients in your office? Do you do online?
No, we have not ventured into that. I think because I still like the platform of being able to see that person and feel their presence.
Yeah, yeah,
So I have not explored the online platform yet, but
yeah.
definitely in our office, we're again we're located in Huntington Valley.
Yes.
And I co-own it with Erica Holtz, who
Oh,
we
yeah.
also worked with
Yeah. Erica is amazing. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
2009.
Yeah. Wonderful.
So,
Yeah. So it's like been like 10 years for now.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It's been a long time.
Amazing. Yes. So how can people reach you?
Sure. They can email me at holtzpowell@yahoo.com, or you can find us on the web, Holtz and Powell Marriage and Family Therapy Services, LLC, Huntington Valley. Or you can just give me a call or a text, and that's on the website, whichever is easiest.
So will you be able to put this information after we finish the live in the comment section so people can contact you with questions or maybe appointments or, you know?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Yeah. So I'm looking at the comments here. People love you, Jen. Jen.
Oh,
Sending hearts and sending, you know, people are saying salam, hello to my folks, and you folks are really telling you love you, Jen, and they are really excited about your life and watching you. I'm excited to have you, Jen.
Oh, that's exciting. That's so great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on the show. That's wonderful. So, what are your final thoughts?
Simply put, you are enough. Just as you are. You are enough, and you have to learn. And if you can't, well, I'll say, you have to learn to love that person just as you are before you can be anyone or anything more. And if you can't do it on your own, there are professionals who can help you learn to love yourself.
Absolutely. And I think we can't ask someone else to love us in a certain way when we cannot provide ourselves that love.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah. I think once we provide that love to ourselves, then we can start to recognize it in people's behavior. And then, oh, okay, that fits me. That fits what I want. Otherwise, we won't be able to really recognize that and enjoy it, actually. We might sabotage it.
Yes.
We might sabotage it because we don't know what does that mean, or it's like so threatening, if you will, or so like foreign.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you so much, Jen, for being
you
here with
so
me.
much.
I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.
Likewise. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much, Rabab.
And for the audience, if you would like to contact Jen, she will include her information in the comment section. You can contact her, or you can contact me. If you like this video, please like it and share it. I will download it on YouTube, so you can also watch it there. You will be on my YouTube, Jen, also.
Oh, great!
You can share it on your social media or whatever venue you want to share it on. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you for the audience, and until I see you next time, have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.